a center point of what my vision is in Forsyth when it comes to classroom technology use. Personally, we are working in our district to make this the common language that we use to talk about technology in the classroom. I've seen it with other things we've done in our district. When we get common language where we all have the same vocabulary and definition, it begins to transform what's happening in the classroom. So for me, this is a big goal, to work on everybody getting the language. So let me just briefly talk a little bit about these three levels, and then we'll share with you the project that has been moving us to transformational. So literacy would be sort of the lowest level, the blue level of technology use. And at this level, what we see is teachers and students having stories about tools, and that's why I put the hammer up there. It's all about, I'm using PowerPoint, I'm using Excel, or we learned Glogster today. The skills that we're learning are, okay, we're going to do Glogster and learn the tools, and then later we'll do the curriculum. Or sometimes it's, okay, now that you've finished the project, you can go to the back of the room and use the computers and play around with. And so it's separate from. One of the things we notice is that we don't see that the work in the classroom is being driven by questions. And questions are the first technology, y'all. It is absolutely the most critical starting point that you can have. So at the adapting level, what we have is doing the same thing we used to do, now we're doing it with technology. So we used to make the poster about why women should or should not be allowed to fight in combat. Now we take each one of the things that were supposed to be on the poster and we make them a slide in PowerPoint. So we're just adapting. Or even worse, now we put it on a page in Glogster. Okay, but we're letting the pixie dust, the sparkle of the technology get in our eyes and not peering past the technology to look at what's going on with content. Students are information consumers at the adapting level, and what we see is a lot of closed questions. What do you suppose I mean by a closed question? Anybody want to hallucinate what they think that might mean?
Lower order thinking, maybe?
Absolutely. Lower order thinking and?
One answer.
Yes, no.
Correct answer.
Yes, no.
Correct answer. So at the transformational level, and we call this green, the green level, now we have stories where students are information producers. It's higher order thinking, or lower on depth of knowledge. I guess that's how depth would be deeper. Yeah, I think that's right. And so you would see open questions with not a right answer, where kids are asked to really think. Or maybe even, what if we let the kids make the questions? What if we let the kids set their own learning by what they're curious about? What would that look like? So that leads me to the project we call STARS, Stepping Up Thinking and Academic Rigor for Students. Out of the work with Bernadine, we hatched this idea that we would work on a project where students do inquiry-based learning and represent what they learn through digital products. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sandy, who was at one of our two schools who were involved in the prototyping of this work, and let her talk to you a little bit about what's been going on.
Are you sharing your slides?
Yes, we are, and the very last slide in the deck will give you the URL, and it's also linked on the vault of this tech forum.
Thank you.
Bernadine, whom Jill referenced, became sort of our creative muse. She came to our school over a year's period, periodically at key points of the year. And she became the coach for teachers to work with them, coaching them on how to make good questions, but also the students, because I think as teachers, oftentimes we really, we're so caught up in the curriculum, we either don't know how to ask good questions or we don't have time to think about the deeper questions. So she worked with both groups on not only how to craft the questions, but also later following the 7 steps to a digital story. So she was in and out of our school and the middle school next door. So what we wanted to focus on with kids was no more tell about. Historically, kids have done summary reports, regurgitating information that they were studying and trying to give us the right answers. So we tried to coach the kids on not only they were picking their own topic, but they also were creating their own question and some sort of conclusion. Maybe they were trying to persuade, but we gave them a lot of latitude actually. So with this is Bernadette's famous thing about meaning making before media. So the kids were focusing on their research to support this question. So we didn't even mention technology that much, except that they were learning the research process. And then we got to the really hard part. I saw it was the most difficult thing for kids to take that information and then craft that into a good story with that good thinking type conclusion. So that came much later in the process. That was the tough part, is then getting it all into a good, just a written story. The kids did have choices about how they were which mode they were going to use to present. And we did actually let some kids who felt super comfortable, I mean, they wanted to do something besides electronic. There weren't many of those. As you can see, most kids chose some sort of electronic presentation. This came towards the very end of the whole process. And so at the end of the process, we had something called Applause, where we invited parents and school people and community members in to help celebrate with the kids with their work. And then the classrooms actually had walkabouts where the kids could view the other kids' projects. And then many classes would sort of do an evaluation with the whole class where they would play the project and then talk about the positive things and then maybe how the kids could have improved on the projects. And in this process, the kids they chose their own topic. And so at the end, I thought it was important to sort of get some reflections from teachers and kids about how did you think the process went? What did you think about the process? The kids obviously were very excited about taking charge of their own learning and actually being able to decide things for themselves. So I'm going to play a little video that I put together having some teachers and students talk about.